Have you ever visited this beautiful Torontonian palace? Do you know where it is? No? Well, it makes sense, because this place doesn't exist anymore. This palace was for decades Toronto's grandest monument, only to vanish in a blink of an eye. How did this landmark, built to impress the world, had such a gruesome fate? This is the story of Toronto's once majestic Crystal Palace. To understand its story and why Toronto built a Crystal Palace, you need to picture the city in the mid-19th century. Toronto in the 1850s wasn't yet a metropolis. It was a colonial city, growing but still rough around the edges. Yet, ambition ran high. Across the Atlantic, in London, the Great Exhibition of 1851 had stunned the world. Held in Hyde Park, inside a vast glass structure known as the Crystal Palace, the fair showcased the latest industrial marvels, works of art, and technological wonders of the age. That building, designed by Joseph Paxton, was unlike anything the world had seen before. Light, airy, transparent, and futuristic. And Toronto wanted its own version, not for vanity, but for status, to prove that this city, this colony, could stand among the greatest centers of progress. The chance came in 1858, when the provincial fair was set to be held here. Toronto commissioned two ambitious engineers, Sir Sandford Fleming, who would later become famous for inventing standard time, and Sir Collingwood Shriver. Their task? Build a glass palace worthy of the industrial age. On September 28, 1858, Governor-General Sir Edmund Walker Head opened Toronto's Crystal Palace, officially named the Palace of Industry. The building stood near King and Shaw Streets. It was a bold attempt to bring the spirit of London's Crystal Palace across the Atlantic. The Toronto version wasn't as large or as intricate, but it was still striking. Iron supports, expansive glass panels, and an open floor plan that filled with natural light. Inside, the first exhibition dazzled visitors. Agricultural displays, industrial machines, textiles, furniture, art. Farmers rubbed shoulders with businessmen, inventors, and curious townsfolk. It was a celebration of progress, but also a marketplace of ideas. For Young City, this was more than an event, it was proof of potential. Toronto could show itself not as a provincial outpost, but as a city of industry, invention, and culture. Yet, as the years passed, the King Street side became less practical. The fair was growing, the crowd swelling, and the building itself was limited. So in 1878, the decision was made: dismantle the palace and move it piece by piece to the Western Waterfront grounds, the site that would become the Canadian National Exhibition, or CNE. However, the move wasn't just a mere relocation. The building was redesigned and expanded. Skylights raised higher, a central cupola added, and the structure lengthened. It became not only larger, but more impressive. At the exhibition grounds, the Crystal Palace was reborn as the centerpiece of Toronto's annual industrial exhibition. Year after year, tens of thousands streamed through its glass doors. Displays of machinery, agriculture, domestic crafts, fine arts, and exotic curiosities filled the space. For many Torontonians, this was the highlight of the year, a place to learn, to marvel, and to be entertained. The palace wasn't just architecture, it was an experience. The hum of machinery, the sparkle of sunlight through the panes of glass, chatter of vendors, the laughter of children discovering strange new inventions. It gave Toronto something priceless, a sense of identity, of belonging to the modern world. But the pride of the town would not last forever. The fateful day was October 18, 1906, during Canadian Thanksgiving Day. The exhibition was wrapping up. Crowds had thinned, but near the grandstands, a fire broke out. At first, it seemed containable, but the winds off Lake Ontario were fierce that night. Sparks and embers were carried through the air across the grounds, and they landed on the Crystal Palace. Wooden supports, decorative trim, dry materials inside. Once ignited, the fire spread with terrifying speed. Witnesses described the flames leaping skyward, Glass bends shattering with explosive cracks, the entire building lit up like a lantern. Crowds gathered in horror as the palace burned. Some tried to help, but there was no stopping it. Firefighting equipment was limited. The inferno roared on. By the morning, nothing was left but twisted iron, charred beams, and smoking ruins. In just a few hours, Toronto had lost its Crystal Palace forever. The loss was devastating. Not only was the palace gone, but many exhibits inside were destroyed. Artifacts, records, displays. It left a physical and emotional hole in the exhibition grounds. But Toronto didn't stand still. By the very next year, 1907, architect George W. Gwynlock designed and built a horticulture building on the same site. In Beaux Arts style, it was sturdier, grand, but different. It wasn't a palace of glass, but of stone and plaster with classical details. Today, if you walk the exhibition grounds, you'll find the horticulture building still exists, along modern pavilions, stadiums, and midway rides. But the ghost of Crystal Palace lingers. It lingers in photographs, in maps, in the collective memory of a city that once dreamed big. It lingers every summer when crowds once again fill the CNE, proof that tradition of exhibition and wonder never died, even if the building did. And it lingers in the way Toronto remembers itself, as a city always striving for more, always building, always risking, always remarking. Perhaps when you think of Toronto today, you think of the CN Tower, but before that, the symbol was a shimmering palace of glass, a place of pride, of wonder, of ambition, gone in one night, but never forgotten. If you like this type of content and are curious about the environment that surrounds us, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. Thank you for watching, and I see you next time.